Hello, Angel. Today I'm talking to my high achieving, ambitious ladies who feel like in order to reach their next level of success have to push harder, do more, push harder, work harder, force things, go, 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 faster, more. I'm talking to you because I want to talk about how all of that is a complete scam and a trap that is part of the Matrix. And no, we're not going to be talking about woo. This is legitimate things that are happening to you on a daily basis. And the reason why ambitious women are so prone to overworking, exhausting themselves, burning themselves out is because of that inner drive, that ambition, that laser focus. And then you couple that with what's going on in our society with this toxic hustle culture that is shoved down our throats. Productivity over everything. Your productivity is your worth. Your accomplishments are your worth. We are pushed from a young age, especially as ambitious women, especially as first gen women, daughters of immigrants like me. We are just pushed to push ourselves to the max. And I have to say, workaholism is the only societally acceptable form of addiction, right? We actually wear busyness, our work ethic, or our toxic work compulsion as a badge of honor, right? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so tired. Oh, I'm barely hanging on. But really, we're signaling, right? My gosh, I must be successful. I must be intelligent. I must be blah, 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 all these things. And there's also a lot of acting happening, especially in the corporate world, especially among men, and especially among senior leadership, where there's this perception of them being so busy and working so hard, when oftentimes that is not the case. But when you have ambitious women who really care about their jobs, are passionate about their careers and what they're doing, we pick up on these cues and we do that times 10. And so the reason why all of this is a scam is because pushing harder, doing more, working more is actually not how you're going to break through to your pinnacle of success. And you've probably already noticed that. You've probably noticed that the ROI for how much input you're putting in is not matching what you would expect for the output. However, because society celebrates and pushes us to work harder, we think we just have to work harder. Maybe we're not working hard enough, and our perception of working hard is extremely skewed. And if you're anything like me or my clients, we always think that we are not doing enough, we're not doing it fast enough, and we're not achieving enough. And we have this intense inner voice that viciously criticizes, judges, pushes us to do more, push harder, push ourselves to the brink, and also really minimizes our accomplishments and wildly exaggerates any flaws or shortcomings. But the truth is that if working harder worked, you would already be at that next level that you want to be at, whether it's getting your book published, getting that promotion, starting your business, growing your business. If working harder worked, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, but it doesn't work, which makes the pain that goes into pushing yourself, sacrificing, struggling, suffering through to success. It makes that pain even worse because we realize it's not even working. And the only solution that we have, unfortunately, is to work harder, and it puts us in this hamster wheel. So I'll give you my example in the corporate world. When I was pushing so hard, writing more reports faster than everyone, managing more accounts than anyone, taking on side jobs, taking on side projects, raising my hand, that did not lead to me getting promoted. What it led to was getting more work. Okay, and that's what hard work does. And I'm not against hard work because I'm talking to hardworking, ambitious people. Doing the work is not our problem. Not destroying ourselves as we do the work, that is our problem. And that is why more hard work is not going to work, because even if we do break through to the next level, we're going to have shit mental health, shit physical health. If you're a woman, you're going to have hormonal imbalances. You're going to have some kind of mental health disturbances. It's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable for everyone. And I know this is non-PC, but it's not sustainable for women. Okay? We have a completely different biological system, hormonal system. We operate differently. We have different hormonal cocktails throughout the month. We're not a man where we're operating on this 24-hour cycle. We're vastly different and we're just different, period, from men. And yet we live in a society because our society values masculine energy above everything, productivity over compassion, achievement over humanity. Ambitious women believe they have no choice but to subscribe to this agenda and be a part of that in order to get the success they so deeply crave, which, if you're being really honest, you want that success because you think it will make you happy. But really, what we have is most brilliant women tremendously unhappy, sick, exhausted on the journey to this success. And they usually don't make it due to some kind of a health crisis, like I had with PCOS or other things. Or it, like I said, it just doesn't work because when you are so stressed out, you're not magnetic. Nobody is going to follow a leader who's hanging on a thread. No one is going to trust someone who's hyper vigilant and their energy is always in panic. It's not grounded. And so you're not even going to be magnetic or given those opportunities that you so desperately want if you are constantly operating from this more work is better, more is more is not more. But let's say by some miracle you get that pinnacle of the success that you're after, you are going to be miserable. Like I said, you're going to be sick and it's just not going to be sustainable because if it took that much effort for you to get there, it's going to take that effort for you to sustain that, is it not? And then you're going to be most likely even wishing you hadn't even gotten those blessings. I have met women like this who have, through hustle, achieved certain roles, certain milestones in their businesses, and they are actually feeling jealous of less successful people. This is completely natural because when you think of how much you've sacrificed and how much you've given of yourself and how depleted and running on empty you are from this toxic hustle culture mentality, you're like, I have nothing more to give. And then you imagine losing it all, the whole thing toppling, and the shame and guilt of that potentially happening. It can lead to someone feeling absolutely paralyzed and just want to dig yourself in a hole and just stay there until you figure out what is going on or until everyone forgets and years pass and you can come out and maybe rebuild. By the way, I am bouncing on my Pilates ball. Highly recommend. Sitting is just not really great for our posture, and this ball really helps me to move a little bit, but also maintain my spine. All right, so once again, the hustle culture is a masculine energy, and as a feminine being, having too much masculine energy just is not healthy for us physically, right? For example, me, I was pushing myself so hard, working so hard. I had an acting career at the same time I was working in the corporate world, trying to get a promotion. And I was trying to be as small as possible. I was doing high intensity workouts. I was just drive, drive, drive. I never sat still. I was always working. I thought time with friends was a waste of time because it wasn't getting me closer to my goals. Okay. So of course my body had to pump more testosterone in order to keep up with that drive, in order to help me survive at this heightened state that I was choosing and putting myself in over and over again every single day. So of course with PCOS, yes, you have estrogen dominance, which happens from stress and other things, and blood sugar dysregulation, which is also caused by stress. But then you also have high testosterone oftentimes, as I did, which caused acne, hair thinning, all these other things, painful periods. I think that was more estrogen. But anyway, long story short, my hormones were a hot mess because I was not living as a feminine being. I was like ignoring the fact that I'm a woman, ignoring the fact that I need to rest, ignoring the fact that I have a period, which should make me slow down. Guess what? I didn't slow down, so my body forced me to slow down with debilitating period pain. I was disabled and I had no choice, and I had to, at least for a day, be disabled. And I was mad because it was out of my control. Control is another big part of hustle culture, right? The reason why we participate in overworking is because we think if we control our activities, control ourselves, we can be safe and we can control our outcome and be loved. This is life or death. That's why it's called survival mode. And that's why it's so hard to break out of. That's also why a lot of women don't realize they're in this. And that's why it's the matrix. It's oftentimes invisible to us. But what I'm trying to say is this masculine energy is just not good for us physically, hormonally. It's not good for us emotionally. I remember actively trying to turn off my emotions. I thought emotions were holding me back from success, whereas now later on, I realized that my emotional intelligence was a big part of why I was a great leader and how I could be an even better leader, how I could lead my business, how I can get my clients results, how I can lead my one-on-one coaching and my group coaching. My emotional intelligence is my superpower, but I spent so many years trying to numb that, stuff that down, and repress that because I thought my emotions were a liability because of that hypermasculine energy driven by that toxic hustle culture. And also, just spiritually, too much masculine energy is not good for us women who are meant to be this divine feminine. Men like to struggle. I don't care if that's not PC. They love a challenge. Their hormones thrive on stress. Our female hormones don't thrive on stress. We tolerate stress, but we're not meant to be so stressed all the time and at such magnitudes. And spiritually, I think all of us have this craving, and that's why you're here listening to me. Because we have this craving to have more ease, yumminess. We want to be abundant, and we also want to rest. We also want room for love, for friendship, for hobbies, for squeezing life like a lemon and experiencing all the wonders and beauty the world has to offer us. We don't just want to survive. We don't just want to struggle and sacrifice and suffer. But we are born into this world that tells us that that's what's required to be successful, and we associate success with happiness. We were probably programmed from a young age to believe that our grades mattered so much, and they do. But wow, if you're anything like me, that was taken to an extreme to where every test suddenly became a measure of my value as a human. And that's another thing that happens when we're in this hyper masculine, hyper hustle energy. We become human doings and we're no longer human beings. And that is what the feminine is all about. We are about being. We're about the present moment. We are about connection. And we cannot do those things if we're stuck in that hypermasculine workhorse machine energy. And I was so sad the day I realized I was a human doing. And I even thought to myself, I don't even know how to be a human being because it's been so many years. I've just been chasing one achievement after the other, measuring my worth with that, chasing external validation. And it was a hole that never got filled. When I had an acting role that went to the Cannes Film Festival, that didn't work. When I became head of office at the same company where I started as an intern 9 years prior, that didn't fill it. In fact, when I got that big promotion, I was more stressed than ever when imposter syndrome started creeping in. The pressure, thinking they're going to find out they made a mistake, thinking my leadership, I haven't seen examples of my kind of leadership, but I know in my heart I don't want to be the kind of leader that I've observed. It's not me. By the way, really grateful that I listened to my heart and went all in on being the kind of leader I wanted to be. One that leads with compassion, understanding, one that seeks to understand, and one that seeks to help people find their strengths, find their genius, use their creativity, use their talents, and to be a part of the process, to co-create rather than demand. So anyway, that worked out really well for me because not only did we have business, really strong business results, we had incredible employee satisfaction results. I think the highest that company has ever seen. I actually thought it was a data error. Anyway, that's just a caveat. But that's also the power of the feminine, and that's what we need in this world. And so we need feminine leadership. We need women with compassion leading the world. This is how we're going to change the world. The world's not going to change if we keep doing things the way we've been doing them. And the way we've been doing them has been skewed in this hyper masculine hustle kind of way. And I think that's why the Matrix wants to keep women like you stuck, burnt out, stressed on that hamster wheel. It wants to keep you there because then the world won't have to change. Then it's going to be the status quo. Nothing will be challenged. People won't see that there's a better way. And then another reason why working harder doesn't work and is a scam is because what I see is women postponing happiness. I see so many women who I'll be happy when I lose 10 pounds. I'd be happy when I make partner. I'll be happy when I have this salary. Guess what? Spoiler alert. You get those things and you're not even happy because guess what? If you're not happy on the journey, you're not going to be happy when you reach your destination. I have done that so many times. And then it made me feel worse because I would reach that goal I thought I wanted so bad. And then I would be like, is this it? It would make me happy for 2 seconds. And then I was immediately finding how I'm still not worthy, how I still haven't made it, how I'm still not good enough, how I still don't have enough, I haven't done enough, achieved enough, proven myself enough. And I would immediately assign myself an even loftier goal and start the whole process all over again. That is the biggest difference that I have brought in intentionally into my business here. I have decided I will be happy at every stage of my business. When my business was really new, when my business was small, now when my business is growing. I'm happy at every single stage and I choose to find the beauty of every single stage and I am not rushing to the next stage. Ironically, that's actually what helps the next stage come in because I'm less stressed. I'm more grounded. I'm more magnetic. I'm more able to receive help, support, invitations, opportunities. Like I said, nobody wants to hire or work with someone who's so stressed and frazzled and frantic. It's just not attractive. That's the worker bee. People want to be with the queen bee, that confident, sassy, grounded, high self-worth, queen status energy. And so don't postpone your happiness. But there's no way to be happy when you're exhausting yourself and burning yourself out and going a million miles a minute and never appreciating yourself, never celebrating yourself. It's impossible to be happy now, and it's a delusion to think that when you reach XYZ, you will be happy. It's delusional. It's this carrot that the Matrix waves in our face, and it's not true. I also want to bring up your ancestors, okay? Your ancestors didn't have a choice. They had to survive. They had to go through war, famine, all kinds of scarcity, insecurities, calamities, chaos, all kinds of things. They didn't have a choice. They had to focus on survival. They probably suffered a lot. They probably sacrificed a lot. They didn't have a choice and they prayed for a day when the world was mostly safe, when people had choices and people could choose and there was abundance and people could operate from abundance. Your ancestors prayed for you. Your ancestors prayed for your freedom, for your safety, your stability, your security. They prayed for your abundance, and you're already abundant. But when you're addicted to this hustle culture, you never feel abundant. It's like spitting into your abundance. It's like spitting into the blessings. It's like telling God, you know what, this ain't good enough, and I'm better. I can control my outcomes better. I'm gonna hustle harder, and I'm actually gonna destroy myself in the process, me, the precious being that you have created. When I think about my ancestors, and I come from a Polish lineage, I think about the women who didn't have a choice, the women who didn't have a voice. I think about the women who couldn't choose their art, their creativity, their zone of genius, their passion. I think of women who went through a lot of heartache. I think of women who lost their men in war, their children from disease and birthing. And I think about how I am not living in that reality anymore, but I am creating my own battles every day with my mind, with my hyperdrive by subscribing to toxic hustle culture. I'm thinking about how if my ancestors were magically transported to today, how they would just smile all day long from ear to ear and how they would love the present moment and love all these modern luxuries and the abundance and just feeling safe and free. And I think about how for so many years I was enslaving myself, not seeing my freedom and beating myself into submission, beating myself into working harder and destroying my health and being stuck in that survival mode when I no longer had to survive. And this is not to blame or shame myself. This came from my childhood and how I was raised and the kind of pressures I was put under that I then just continued on autopilot. But once I knew better, I knew I had to do better. And thinking about my ancestors played a big role in me having the courage because that's what this is about. You're scared. You're scared that if you don't work harder or outwork everyone, if you're not killing yourself for success, that means you're not worthy or you won't get that success, or it means you're nobody. You're scared that if you rest for a second, you'll drop the ball and like I used to say, I'm going to be homeless. Any small little thing, if I'm not controlling and on top of it and always moving upwards, I'm on the street. And so I want you to think about your ancestors and let them give you the strength and courage because they're all behind you, rooting for you, celebrating you, going, that's my girl. This is why we suffered. She gets to live a life in peace. And you can't live a life in peace if you don't have peace in your mind because you're constantly pushing yourself, shaming yourself, criticizing yourself, and driving yourself to do more faster and never allow yourself to rest, never allow yourself to be that human being. I hope that message landed in your heart and planted a seed in your brain that it is not necessary to suffer for success. And in fact, I am sitting here before you as an example of someone who has created more success for myself while feeling better at the same time, while healing all my health issues, while feeling better than ever, while getting rid of all my disordered eating that was also a sign of hustle culture and that obsessive need to control and prove myself and be perfect. And I want to share with you what made the biggest change for me. And this happened in 2021 when I heard about a program called Positive Intelligence out of Stanford University that promised that I could be more productive and happier. And I was like, are you smoking crack? There's no way you can be both. You have to pick. This was my matrix conditioning and this was my experience. I can either be happy or successful. What do you mean have them both come together? And so I ended up taking that program to basically prove that they're a scam. And so I did the program diligently just to show them like what are you talking about? Like, no. And by week one, I remember feeling like a relief has been lifted off my shoulder. And I realized how much heaviness I've been carrying every single day that was weighing me down and actually stopping me from being my best, most magical, radiant, magnetic, successful self. By week two, my boss started to notice something shifted in me in the energy I was bringing to the company. And so that program completely changed my life and removed all that pressure and urgency and panic that I used to have while working. And it rewired my brain to be able to operate and work from that sense of peace, confidence, laser focus, and honestly, joy. Because guess what? It's not meant to be this hard. And if you're a divine feminine, it's meant to actually be easy, more effortless, yummy. It's meant to be delicious. We're not here to suffer so much. And that program was so transformational for me that I decided to become a positive intelligence coach and have that program in my toolkit. And it's proven to be immensely valuable. It's one of the foundational courses that I offer to every one of my brilliant clients from around the world because in order to reach that next level of success, you have to get rid of these patterns and tendencies because number one, you're not going to get to that next level that you so deeply want. And number two, you're probably going to destroy yourself along the way if you don't change these patterns and if you don't rewire your brain away from this autopilot, which like I said, could be starting from childhood. It could even be ancestral, genetic, this drive and this being in survival, things you picked up from your environment, from your family. If you're feeling pulled to still be super ambitious, this is not about slowing you down at all. But if you're feeling pulled to do it in a way that's easier, more feminine, like I said, more joyful, more peaceful, then I invite you to comment positive intelligence below and I'll send you more information. I do have the next cohort kicking off on July 11th, 2025. Those spots are selling out really, really fast. So, depending on how quickly you comment and how quickly I get back to you, if you don't make it in time for July 2025, you can instead sign up for the waitlist and you'll be informed the next time I open doors for this program. If you've made it this far, that means that in your heart, you know that you want to have a yummier, easier, funner, lighter life. And I invite you to give yourself that permission. I invite you to love yourself enough to start noticing when those old patterns, that matrix grasp is trying to keep you stuck, stressed, and burnt out. And I invite you to muster up the courage that I know you have to fight against that because it really is a battle. It's a battle for your heart, your mind, your peace. And like I said, your ancestors have went through too much for you to continue to be enslaved in this way. Anyway, love you lots. I will see you next time.